Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. I'm your host, Rebecca Mahan, and this program, this episode, has been brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm really excited about today's show because we have a guest who is going to just open the box in reference to communication. And why I feel communication is so important is because it is applicable to every aspect of everything that we do. It starts from the time that we're born all the way through life, from personal relationships all the way through business relationships. And there is so much to communication, from unspoken communication, our behavior, to auditory communication and the things that we convey to other people. With me today, I'm really delighted because we have a special guest who, if you heard of Dr. Phil, well, we're going to talk to Dr. Un. He's a licensed clinical social worker, and he likes to be called the untalk therapist. What's exciting about this is because he is also a psychotherapy disruptor, and he's a relationship healer, an author, which is very exciting, some of the things that he's going to share with us today, a speaker, and he's also, well, you've guessed it, maybe not, he's also been a guinea pig. And so what he has done is he has taken so many things about communication and been able to apply them to relationships that have been very, very successful. He's going to even share something that we might have thought to ourselves, well, why didn't I think of that myself? He is phenomenal in everything that he is going to share with us today. And we're going to be talking about the essentials of communication. With me today, my guest, who I just want to give great big hugs to because I feel that this particular topic is of extreme importance. With me today is Dr. Phil DeLuca. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, it's an honor and a delight to have you with us today because you have done something that nobody else has done. But first, before I go into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about why you were called a psychotherapy disruptor and so on and so forth. So maybe you could share with the audience a little bit about that.
Well, I'm a psychotherapist, and by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm a Mr. Phil DeLuca, but you can call me a doctor. My late mother would be very happy on hearing that. My son's a doctor. Oh.
I love it. But you're known as Dr. Un.
Dr. Un. And that's because my approach is untalk therapy. I'm the untalk therapist, and what I teach people is untalk therapy. So it's a psychology disruptor, psychotherapy disruptor, because I take standard psychotherapy and when it comes to communication and relationship skills, and I stand it on its head. I turn it upside down. I demolish them. I show why, using the current state of science, mainly the fight or flight response and neuroplasticity, the stuff that people are using in psychotherapy to help people is highly destructive. It's basically relationship suicide. Mm-hmm. Not only does it destroy their relationship, it destroys their health, their personal peace. It sucks love out of the relationships, and they spiral into what I call the dead zone, where there's no love left. So even if we fix it, it's too late. What does it matter? And that's a really bad place to be.
It is a really bad place to be.
Despairing, you feel like a failure, worthless, your life's over, hopeless. You break up the family, the kids now, they don't have an intact family, they're split between two households, your financial situation plummets. Oh, it's a disaster.
It absolutely is. Go ahead.
Well, my goal is to stop that. So I developed an approach that stops conflict in its tracks. When they leave my session after 1 hour, only 1 hour is all I need. If they follow what I say, which is extremely easy, which I'm going to show, I can stop that conflict right there and keep them from spiraling into the dead zone and start them climbing out. And that's real important because a lot of people wait so long to get help. When they do seek help, they're like one conflict, one argument away from the dead zone. That's it. I've had it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. So
Yes.
I learned over 30 years, when people are in high conflict situations, I need something that works immediately, not next week, not 3 months
Right.
from now, but this minute. And so that's what I developed. I tweaked it over 30 years. I did research into health issues. I saw that how they were related to what goes on with our brain, our mind, our relationships, our moods. And I tweaked over 30 years an approach, no fat, no psychobabble, no psychological gobbledygook, simple, quick, right to the point, all meat, no gristle.
I love it. I absolutely love it because this is the essential to everything that goes on in our world. And like I said, from birth until later in life, in every aspect, we're communicating verbally and non-verbally. And so one of the things that, we have been taught over time is when we get out into the workforce, the first 5 seconds, people are formulating an opinion about you based on how you've communicated to them, both in the fashions of verbal and nonverbal behaviors. And then we have other things that we've been taught about listening and communication, like the Pareto principle. And there is so much going into this, and it just seems like there's so much being thrown at us about communication. And yet, when we go to apply all these things, it can be very, very overwhelming because we're thinking of
Chaotic.
all this.
Yes, it can be chaotic.
Yes.
And that's what happens. People come in and they have all these little bits and pieces, but it's not one unified piece. And so they're confused, they're contradictory information. So I basically call my approach untherapy because I teach people, it's like a psychoeducational model. I teach them new information as a template. And here's what's going on. And then all the pieces fit together and point specifically to a solution. So it all smooths it out. It makes it one unified whole, including their health, because the same process that affects our mood and communication skills is the same inflammation process that is the source of all diseases. So at the same time that, yes, and relationship conflict basically is an inflammation state of the body. The fight or flight response gets activated in us, and that's an inflammation state. And then when that happens, there's a series of 4 changes that occur within 1/1,000,000th of a second. So they're simultaneously before you can blink, unless you have a pause switch in there. You're already like dominoes. The first one hits the second one, and before you could say, oh my goodness, they're already wiped out, and you spend all your time in the recovery mode. So it's a very quick process. And the conventional communication approaches, they were developed in the 60s and the 70s, and basically they came down to express yourself. And that comes down to always be in touch with your anger, get it out. Repressed anger is real bad. Always be honest and open about how you truly feel and think, quote, no secrets, and always deal with the problem now. Never go to bed mad at each other or, quote, you're running from the problem. Mm-hmm. Those are the very things that the latest science says that's highly destructive. That's the worst possible thing you could do. That's why they have such poor success rates. Well, that's why when people...
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because there's a couple of things that you said that I think are really crucial to what is happening in relationships, even on a societal level right now. And the first thing is the approach that you have come to uncover over 30 years of your research and working with people is going to be extremely important. But I want to hold off in sharing that with the audience just yet, because I think that something that you're saying right now is that these 4 tactics that have been taught to us and have been taught to therapists to share with others to help them pursue better relationships and have conflict resolution skills that are advantageous in a number of arenas, we're finding that it is very destructive on a social level. And we're seeing it a lot in the media as well as personal relationships. And I'd like for your thoughts on this.
Yes, it's the same mechanism involved. And basically, when I ask people, what do you know about the fight or flight response? Most people will say, like 98%, well, if they know anything about it, it's I know when we feel threatened, we either fight or flee. That's what I know. But that's true, but that's on the surface level, the most basic level. When you start peeling away the layers on that onion, it's this whole world that we now knows opens up. So what
Okay.
happens is, if you want, I'll explain that to
Yes,
your
yes,
audience.
absolutely.
Okay, so what happens is we have two parts of our brain, the front brain, which is our cerebral cortex, two parts that we want to focus on for this discussion. Front brain, cerebral cortex, thinking brain, gray matter, abstract thinking, higher learning, empathy, spirituality, music. It's what separates us from the lower life forms, intelligence. And then we have the back brain, our survival brain. It's called the amygdala. Let's call it our lizard brain. And it's right behind each ear, two almond-shaped organs. And that's the exact same organs that we share with crocodiles, all the animals.
Okay.
Now, yes, no different. So now what happens in between those is a switching unit called the hypothalamus. And it switches blood between the front brain and the back brain. The back brain is dark, bleak, doom, gloom, and has a number of other characteristics. The front brain is light, love, joy, peace. So what happens is the body perceives a threat. The back brain comes alert and says, hey, possible threat, I need more blood. So what it does is the hypothalamus starts switching blood from the front of our brain, thinking, genius brain, let's call it, to the back of our brain, our lizard brain. So, and in extreme stress, up to 75% of the blood in the front gets shut off and rerouted to the back brain. So, as an example, if you ever fallen asleep on a limb, a few weeks ago I fell asleep on my arm. I woke up, I couldn't move it. Mentally,
Okay.
I couldn't move it because I had no blood flow and oxygen, right? So I lifted it up and I was like, wow, this thing gained 100 pounds overnight. How did that happen? And then I put it down and blood started coming. And then I could mentally move it when blood returned. Well, that's exactly what happens to our front and our back brain. As stress keeps rising, the blood reroutes from our front brain and it shuts down, and our back brain becomes like on steroids, becomes like the Hulk, dark, bleak, paranoid. Now, when that happens, that's connected through the vagus nerve, a wandering nerve that meanders through the whole part of our body. 90% of our organs get activated on high alert. Heart, liver, skin. The hair on the back of our neck actually stands up. You've seen two cats circling each other. That's what happens to us when we get in lizard brain. No different whatsoever. So now what happens is, with lizard brain active, if you've ever been in a place where you've had this internal discussion going on, you heard these two little voices or thoughts. One part saying, now stay calm, it's going to have real bad consequences, front brain. Lizard brain saying, no, come on, act right now. Don't take that. You've been offended. No, yes, no. That's the two parts of the brain actually dialoguing with each other. And
Interesting.
then what happens is, as the stress keeps rising, the blood keeps getting rerouted, front brain weakens, lizard brain gets stronger, and then we have what's called lizard brain hijack. That lizard brain takes over, and now we're in a place, and people will report, you're there when you have thoughts like, when I get upset and past a certain point, it's like words coming out of my mouth. I can see my life unfolding in front of me, but I'm helpless to do anything about it.
Uh-huh.
That is lizard brain hijack. And now this brain is in control of all of our whole body. So what happens is our hearts shoot up, our lungs and skeleton muscles and blood vessels expand up to 1,200% because the body now is perceiving a life-threatening battle. The problem
Right.
is it's really bad at perceiving real from perceived, big from small threats. So it better safe than sorry if survival's at stake. So at 99.9% of the time, it overreacts. So we will react the same way to somebody taking the parking spot we were patiently waiting for, as if we were about to be eaten by a T-Rex or a bear. Same
Okay.
thing. And so what happened is Now we have all of these organs, heart, liver, everything pumps up high. Our pupils actually dilate so we can see far, better to see the enemy. We lose peripheral vision and hearing, and we get tunnel vision and hearing. You versus me. Alligator versus lion. One of us is going to win because the other body is perceived as they want to eat me. They want me for their meal. So I got to protect myself from this predator who a minute ago when I was calm and in front thinking genius brain was a loving, warm partner.
Right.
Now with this back brain in control, they're out to harm me. So if I was to put on some sunglasses representing lizard brain, so now I put on my purple Elton John glasses on. Everything in here now is purple.
Right.
And Rebecca, you need to go to a doctor because you got purple skin. Hurry, rush off. You're really sick. That's what happens when we get into lizard brain. Dark, bleak, paranoid, suspicious. Everything it affects our mood, which gets dark. Our attitude gets provocative. Our thoughts get scrambled. So what happens is now everything looks purple. So if we have this piece of paper, so I pull out this piece of paper, and I say to you, and I'm convinced this is reality, everything looks purple.
Sure.
Rebecca, what's your problem? I asked you to go to the store. You know I'm in a hurry. I have to print this document to get me copier paper. You got me purple copier paper. What's your problem?
Right.
So you're seeing things clearly, right? So what do you say back? You say something like, it's white.
Yeah, it's not purple. Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, purple, what do you think? I'm stupid or foolish? Which one is it? That's something stupid like your mother would say. Now, you're starting to get upset because I'm insulting your mother, who died 20 years ago and has nothing to do with this topic. So you get upset. So we're going to give you green glasses, right? Because you're upset and seeing things through the same lizard warped lens. So I say to you, so are you still saying this is a white piece of paper? So what do you say back? No, it's green.
Right?
And I say, green, first it was white, now it's green. I'm not the idiot here, you are. So now we're talking about who's the idiot, and we're going off on these long different tangents. Well, we get calmed down. What happens when we get calmed down? Blood reroutes from the back brain to the front brain, our thinking genius brain. The lens comes off, and now we look at this paper and we're like, oh, it was white. I'm so sorry I said this. And now you have regrets, guilt, shame. So what happens now is when lizard brain kicks in, that's how communication gets all screwy. So let me ask you a series of questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. So it's like, have you ever noticed when the other party is calm versus upset? It's like an alien enters their body.
Right.
Like they're a different person. They're like a different person completely. They were smiling a minute before, and now they're looking at you with the evil eye or the look of death.
Yes.
Right? They're contemptuous. They have an attitude. They're arrogant. Their thoughts are all over the place. And then something happens. They laugh and they get calm again immediately. And the whole countenance changes.
Yes.
They're calm, they're laughing, they're loving. You're the loving spouse or friend or a partner you were before. And then they get mad again. Something happens and they flip back into that. And now suddenly you're the enemy out to harm me. You see, that's the two brains in control. They change mood, attitude, thoughts, and then they affect our relationship. And here's how this plays out. So let's take a look at some of the characteristics of the alien. And I want to ask a series of questions and just observe this in your own life, with others around you, with yourself. Have you ever noticed when they try to appeal to their logic, your logic is twisted into pretzels, right? They use the words and they twist it and clobber you about it, all right? When you appeal to them and say, now, we agreed to stay calm, when one of us gets upset, they scream at you, I am calm. Okay?
Yes.
Right? They bring up topics that are old and irrelevant. Why do they do that? Because back brain takes an emotional snapshot, and it's of events, and it's when we get up activated, all of those pop up in an emotional state. Thinking genius brain is time oriented. Last
Okay.
week was last week. 5 years was 5 years ago. So that's why when they get upset, they'll bring up stuff that's 20 years old, because in this brain, it is now and occurring now to them. So recently I had a couple in which he turned to her and he said, all I asked you yesterday was, did you do the dishes? And if not, I was going to do them. And you said to me, wow, how come you didn't get me that ring 2 years ago? He's like, what does that have to do with yesterday's dishes? Because she flipped into lizard brain and was 2 years ago was just like yesterday. So that's why we bring up past and irrelevant stuff. Okay, so let's go more down this list. You ever wonder how the other party knows exactly what it is to say to push my buttons? Ever wonder about that? They know the exact word, the gesture, the look. Well, what happens is when this old brain, when this lizard brain hijack occurs, it goes into the front brain. First of all, one of the characteristics of lizard brain is it's oppositional. When I look up in the dictionary, oppositional, it says conflict seeking, contentious, provocative, taking an anti-stance. So when we're in this brain, we're looking for conflict. That's why it was made for. It's about to do battle. So it's made for conflict. When we're in our genius brain, we're made for conflict resolution. So that's why everything you say, they jujitsu around and pull you into conflict, because they're looking for conflict. You're looking for conflict resolution. And another thing, when we're in chronic, stressful, argumentative states, one of the chemicals released is adrenaline. And what happens is we get adrenaline addicted. So when there's a calm situation, we go through withdrawal, and then we provoke an argument unknowingly and unconsciously, but still regardless. We provoke an argument in order to get the fix that my body needs of adrenaline. So that's why people will say we can't have a nice conversation and be getting along before somebody provokes an argument over nothing.
Right.
That's the reason for it. Okay, so let's go back to this. So how do they know how to push our buttons? Well, what they do is they go to front brain and they say, okay, tell me what it is that bothers them. All right, we'll bring up this topic, give them this look, put their finger in their face, and when all else fails, bring up their mother. That will make them crazy. So that's how we know exactly how to push the other person's buttons, because we access the information in our thinking brain up here, which stores all that data. And when we get upset, we bring it right out there, because we're not looking for conflict resolution. That's front brain. We're looking for conflict. Because one of the things about lizard brain, it's a reciprocal brain. It needs something in return. Fire is reciprocal. No oxygen, no fire. Substance abuse is reciprocal. No alcohol intoxication.
Right.
Lizard brain, at least in the initial stages of conflict in a relationship, is reciprocal. We go out of our way to provoke an argument because it needs conflict back. It's fire. It's an inflammation state. The fight or flight response is it's inflammation of the body. In flames. Flames need oxygen. The oxygen is conflict. So earlier on, we provoke an argument for that reason. Later on, because of the brain, the neuroplasticity, and the changes in our brain, we don't need the other party for conflict, because our brain expands. Neuroplasticity says the brain constantly adapts in life. And it only takes 4 days for it to grow new parts and to shrink other parts. So over time, what happens when you're in this constant argumentative state, front brain, genius brain shrinks like a muscle, lack of use. Rear brain, fight brain, lizard brain grows and expands and becomes like the Hulk, like Arnold, like the Terminator. And then it becomes our default setting. So we do it automatically. You know, people will say at that stage, you know, when I'm I'm always thinking that negative thoughts. I've got these preoccupation constantly.
Uh-huh.
Everything I say to the other party, they're immediately defensive. They're always on the attack. That is a default setting of the brain, that the back brain is now in control of us. And we don't need conflict from the other party to keep this going because our own thoughts are fueling it. And now we're in a self-reinforcing and escalating loop.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary place to be because at that point, if we say something, we get into an argument. If we don't say something, we still get into an argument. So we're in a
Yes.
lose-lose situation. No matter what we do, we always it always gets worse. And so what I've discovered is people then will spiral down into this circle, into what I call the dead zone. And the dead zone is where there's no caring left in the relationship. So why bother fixing?
Ouch.
So one of
Ouch.
the,
Ouch.
yes, a terminal place. And one of the best examples I saw of that was a man was clearly dragging in his wife. This was about 15 years ago. He was clearly dragging in his wife, who didn't want to be there. And she said, "Why am I here? You know, you promise everything, but you never follow through on anything." And he said, "No, honey, it's different. This time I followed through. I hadn't had a drink in 6 months, no women." And he went through this long list of stuff. And
Okay.
I said to myself, I think he's got it this time. And she said, "You know, honey, I think you got it this time. And I'm happy for you because in your next relationship, you'll make a much better husband."
Oh,
Dead
wow.
zone. It's too late. You change then. It's irrelevant.
Yes.
And that's what the current communication approaches do. They accelerate this downward spiral and push people into the dead zone. And in the dead zone, there's no caring left. There's no enjoyment. Sex is a battleground of ritual. Communication is chaotic. There's no personal peace. There's guilt. There's negative preoccupation. And our
Yeah.
health gets destroyed. For
Yes.
instance,
It's
episodic.
such a ripple effect.
Yes, yes. Like, for instance, get in touch with your anger. You're entitled to your anger and get it out. Well, the science now says episodic anger releases, where you get angry in these bursts, outward bursts, for 2 hours afterwards, your heart attack and stroke rate goes up 500%.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
that's for a healthy person. And over time, it increases that risk 2,000%. Cancer risk 3,000%. Contributes to Alzheimer's, diabetes, weight gain of the worst kind, visceral weight gain around your organs. Autoimmune, 60% of Americans have autoimmune disease. It's an inflammation process. So not only does the express yourself communication approaches suck love out of relationship, enjoyment, and personal peace, but they destroy people's health.
Well, these are some absolutely huge numbers in health-related issues that I don't think many people have really attributed to going back to this essential issue in the communication. But you've written a book on this, and I'd like to have you share with the audience a little bit about that. And I'd also like to hear about your solution, because this is huge. I mean, we're talking about a lot that is being displayed on many levels here, from exterior things that are going on within the two people in the relationship, but internally, this is just phenomenal, the numbers and all of the things that are happening, and it's very concerning.
Yes, it's tearing apart families. And you know, the express yourself approach, get in touch with your anger, be honest and open, you're entitled to your feelings and thoughts, and always deal with it now. It's pretty much settled science. It's just been absorbed into the system. Everybody believes it. And it's like, it's just a given. When in reality, it's all a lie, and basically
Right.
causes people to get into relationship suicide. It's a horrible thing to watch. That's the bad news. But there's good news. There's very good news. Okay? And that is, there's only one trunk that supports all of the stuff we were talking about. If you can chop that trunk down, all the rest of that stuff will collapse by itself.
Reveille.
And that's the nice part. That's the nice part. It's not complicated. If you know the core issue that's supporting that whole trunk, that whole tree, a whole forest even, and you cut that, you got a tree that's got, 50 feet tall, it's got all these limbs, but you cut the base down, the rest of that is all dead. It dries up by itself. So, what happened was I was finding that when I first got out of graduate school, I was practicing this express yourself approaches, and I was teaching people that, and they were coming back worse than they left. And I was like, something's wrong here.
Right.
I'm too new at this to do anything wrong. I'm just reading the books, This is what I learned. And then I tried it in my own life, and it was chaos. And I was like, this is not right. So I started while I was trying to figure out what was going on there, I was starting to have some health problems. I was losing my memory prematurely, and I was having rheumatoid arthritis that was spreading. So I started looking into alternative health issues, alternative health in particular. And then it hit me. It was like over the head with a 2x4. Wait a minute, the very things affecting the health are affecting the body. Mood, thoughts, attitude, communication in turn, and in turn, relationships, which then feedback onto our health, and they're all one piece. They're not separate. You can't separate them. And so what happens with conventional approaches is they'll jack people up. They'll inflame them. Hey, you're entitled to this. Get in touch with it. Don't wait till the next morning and you cool off. Deal with it now.
Right.
Don't go to bed mad at each other. Well, when you talk about it when you're mad, you don't sleep anyway because you don't go to bed at all because you're up all night. And then the next day you've lost sleep, and losing sleep is horrible because it affects mood, attitude, thoughts. You got brain fog. We're tired. We're grouchy. We're testy. It activates our lizard brain, makes it stronger. It weakens our front brain. And I don't know about you, but if I lose 1 or 2 nights sleep, I don't like being about myself, let alone anybody else.
Right.
I mean, I get grouchy. I get testy. I can't focus. So they actually make it worse. So what they do is they jack people up. Then they say, hey, but you need to relax. Go take meditation. Go to your yoga class. So you get all relaxed. Go exercise. Drain off those stress chemicals. So now you relax. But you go home. You have rights. Be in touch with your feelings at all times. You're entitled to it. Not to be in touch with them denies your own personhood. So they go home. Somebody doesn't park the car in the right way or didn't take out the garbage the correct way. Again, well, I feel mad. Get in touch with it. So now jack them up, calm them down. Jack them up, calm them down. In the meantime, this thing is destroying the body. Heart attack rates going up. The mechanisms are getting set in place for cancer, strokes, Alzheimer's, is diabetes, hormone disruptors, endocrine. I mean, it's a disaster. It's like people are working at cross purposes. And they're paying big money to the therapist to do that. And I'm like, this is horrible. This is destroying everything. So what I came up with, I just kept tweaking through the years, and then I added the holistic health to it. And I said, actually, this doesn't have to be voodoo. This can be science-based. Psychotherapy, communication can be science-based. And so I developed an approach that's science-based. So I call it communication of the 21st century. Why drive it? Would you drive a car that's from the 60s cross country with your family in it?
Right.
No, the thing's 50 years old. There's no airbags. There's no seatbelts. It's a death trap. So why are we using a communication approach that's 50 years old? It's a death trap.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you. And so you have come up with a solution, and this is so simplistic that it's going to amaze everyone.
Yes. Not simplistic, simple.
Okay.
Simple.
Okay.
Big difference.
That's true.
Yes. And the reason it's simple was because I kept peeling the layers back. I was like, this is taking too long. It's too complicated. I need something quicker. I need it now. I need it now. It won't work in another week. If they walk out of here and have one more fight, one more disagreement, it's over. I need it now. So I developed, that's why it took so long. I had to weave in a lot of parts, and I had to go counter to what is being put out there. So I was like fighting against my peers, thinking, well, they're all saying this, but I'm coming up with this. maybe they're right and I'm wrong. So I had this internal struggle, but I kept getting such great results. It kind of kept pushing me on.
Yes,
So what's the solution? All right. We ready for that yet?
I am. I'm just sitting on the edge of my seat.
Okay. So here's what you do. Conflict starts two ways. We go into the fight or flight response, lizard brain, and we provoke an argument,
Okay.
totally unaware, not on purpose, but it doesn't matter. If we knock the dominoes down, it's our fault. Or they go into conflict, and in spite of our best efforts, they pull us in, right?
Gotcha.
And so as soon as we bite and go into lizard brain in reaction back and engage them in conflict, we help push those dominoes back down.
That makes sense.
So yes, and that's the big one that everybody wants to know the answer to. So what do I do in that case? That's exactly what my spouse does. So we'll get to that. I don't want to leave people hanging because that's a biggie. That's an important one. But in order to do that, you have to get the first one first, because this is a skill-based. I'm going to teach people, I'm going to give you an exercise that'll teach people a skill on how to become aware of this mechanism in us and short-circuit it within us and between us and get us off the destructive path. Because when lizard brain is in control, it's a conflict, dark, bleak, paranoid death. It's a death path. That's what it's made for. Death is imminent. And so
Yes.
I have to protect against this death struggle that's terminal if I don't win. So we got to develop a pause switch so that people can short circuit that from controlling us internally
Yes.
and externally, the relationship and the environment we're in. Get people back into front thinking, calm, loving, empathic brain.
Okay.
And then engage them. That's why I call it untalk. I teach people how not to talk when they are upset. And that might sound like a simple thing to do, but trust me, when people are in this lizard brain and they have all of these belief systems reinforced by the system, deal with it now. You have rights. Don't go to bed mad at each other. It's like a tsunami rolling. It
Yes.
just will sweep everything away. So what do you do about it? Well, when our fight or flight response kicks in, our body is letting us know it's a powerful mechanism. Blood vessels and lungs expand 1,200%. Think about that. That's huge. Heart pumps harder, blood pressure rises, everything gets rerouted. So get in touch with that feeling. We all have one sign. We don't have to reinvent the wheel throughout life. It never changes. Some people say, I can feel my heart pumping hard in my chest. My stomach gets knotted in a certain way. It's different than when I have indigestion. I know the difference.
Okay.
People tell me I can feel blood rushing to my head. My thoughts get scrambled. My palms get sweaty. So let me ask you, Rebecca, what might it be with you? We'll use you as an example and help your audience walk through this.
Okay.
Think back to when you were in a stressful situation or you were upset. What did you feel prior to that?
Prior to being upset?
Yeah, that's your body letting you know I'm going into a combat mode. You got 1/10 of 1 second, and then we're going at it.
I think I just start feeling like a tension, a tenseness.
Okay. And where, and that's what I ask people. I say, so where exactly do you feel it? In your arms, your legs, your chest? Where might it be?
Probably in my chest and out to the arms. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's your sign. So what you need to do, or what I suggest people do, is get in touch with that sign. And when you see that coming, instead of engaging the other party, and now I'm going to teach you a skill. This is a skill exercise. That's why I call it untherapy. I teach people a skill. And at the same time, since it improves our relationship and our intimacy and our happiness, it's therapeutic, because happy people live longer than stressful people. As a matter of fact, high stress situations, one of the things it does, not only have those other health problems, it affects our longevity from 9 to 17 years. It shortens our lifespan from 9 to 17 years.
Yes.
Okay. So what you want to do basically is when you feel that going on, normally I say and do this. I say this to them. I lose my temper. I get sarcastic. In my case, I'm from New York City. I like sarcasm. So I get more sarcastic, but I do it in a very provocative way. I know that when I'm calm. So like in my case, my stomach starts twitching a certain way. I know at this point I'm about to lose it, and I don't need to do this to my wife, for instance. She deserves better. I don't need to heap all of this stuff on me. I don't need to give her the look. I don't need to make a cutting comment. I don't need to
Yes.
cop an attitude. She deserves better. So I get away and I get calmer. And so what you need to do now is get away, go to another room. Now what you have to do, what's real important, is you need to close the door. You need a barrier there. Either leave the house and go for a walk, or if you go to another room, you need a barrier there. Why do we need the door closed? Well, because you have to let this lizard brain know, stand down. You're not about to be attacked. You're not
Okay.
going to be your spouse doesn't want to make you a meal. Because if you have a door there, you've got a warning. They can't just lunge at you. They have to start
Sure.
pounding at the door. So it helps relax the brain. Then you have to detox. It'll dissipate over time, but you can speed it up. Exercise is really important. If you can just go for a walk, if that's possible. Sometimes it can't. It's late, it's night, it's cold, it's raining. But if you can, walk it off. Why? Because these chemicals were made for the body to move. And if you don't move, they just keep recycling inside your body and they cook us. That's why the health problems. It's like putting your foot on, try this experiment. Go to your car, put your foot all the way down on the accelerator and put your foot all the way down on the brake. What happens? Smoke's coming out of the wheels, there's loud noises coming, something's going to pop. And
Right.
that's what happens to us when we just sit there and fume. So if you can walk, but let's say you go into your room, it's late at night, close the door, okay? And now detox it. There's a lot of things that are like release good chemicals that activate front part of the brain that is like water on the stress chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, some of the others.
Yes.
Comedy is very good. If you ever been upset and you had this laugh, ha, 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 and it's like you clear
Right,
the air.
right.
Comedy does it. Calming music does it. Meditation. Getting preoccupied with something that forces the front brain to get active. Take part in a hobby. Get immersed in something. One of the research shows that one of the best ways, like number one, is to read a book, but a hardcover book like you have in your hands.
Okay.
The researchers discovered that reading that book is the most calming of anything, especially if it's a novel, because to read, you have to reroute blood from the back to the front brain. You can't read with the back brain. You're just looking at a page and saying, I've read this 5 times. I don't have a clue what it says.
Right.
But you start, when the blood starts coming back to the front brain, we focus. Oh, there it is. Now I understand. So you want to force that to happen. You want to force the blood to go up front. And what they envision, reading a novel is best because the brain has to fill in the gaps in order to visualize.
Okay.
So that's what you want to do. See, because of the neuroplasticity, which says now we know the brain is not static, but it grows throughout our life and shrinks. We use it, it grows. Within 4 days, if we don't use it, it shrinks. So when we're in this chronic situation and we're sitting in the other room just fermenting, resentments, preoccupation, having a whole list of bad things, the back brain says, hey, I got to get stronger for the next battle. So it's growing all of these neurons and shrinking the counter neurons that are calm, loving, and peace. And our lens over time gets darker and darker. And it becomes self-reinforcing and escalating. So you want to shut that down, reroute blood to the front. So go in there, put on a comedy, listen to some calming music. If you do meditation, here's a tough one, but is real effective. Write down, this will really force that front brain to work. Write down 3 things you feel gratitude for. You don't have to like doing it.
Yes.
Well, he did help change the diaper one time. I'll take it. When I was sick, he did take care of me. I'll take that. Those things will force this brain to be active. And that's what you want. Then you get calmer. There's a whole list. I got like 20 things I give people. Then you get back calmer. Now you're calmer. Come back out. And now you can re-engage them. And a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't know if you've been in that place, but it's like, I don't want to bring that up. It was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. Who cares that the garbage wasn't taken out again? It's not worth going into it.
I have to agree with you. A lot of times, if we can do that and take ourselves to a position where we can start identifying those things and release that, we do. And I know that you have more. We are up at about the end of the hour, and I do want the audience to
Yes.
have an opportunity, one, to get in touch with you, because I think that helping others be able to identify the things that they are starting to experience physically, and then being able to move forward. And I also would like you to share the information on your book and how those who would really like to excel in the communication process, because not only, as I said earlier, is this a ripple effect, but it's not just a ripple effect in personal relationships, but in communication as a whole, in everyone that we
Yes.
come in contact with. And this is all very, very applicable because, as you've stated, the lifespan is shortened when we have these periods of massive stress to no stress, massive stress to no stress, and it really evolves a lot around communication. So if you wouldn't mind, I would really love for you to share your information for the audience.
Well, I have on my site, Let's Talk More Love, I have a death zone quiz they could take. But I also am about to put together in the next few weeks a free webinar, probably about 45 minutes, in which I will go through in detail on this whole process. And it's going to be fun, informative but fun. I'm going to put on a mask that's going to show me with a lizard head. I have tattoos on my head to show genius brain and lizard brain. I want to make it fun, but I want to make it educational. And then I'm going to give people, when they get done with that, they will have concrete things that they can do that will short circuit that conflict. And I'm putting it out there for free because I need to get this information out. This is real important. When
It
I
is
see
really,
people
yes.
imploding that don't need to, that really saddens me.
It's very heart-wrenching when you're finding that you see two people who've really had a great, healthy relationship come to a position in that relationship where they're sort of, like you said, at the dead zone, and then somebody is at the last straw, and it doesn't matter if that person's willing to make an effort right now. They've already made the decision. But for those of you in the audience, I really would like you to have an opportunity to get in touch with a licensed clinical psychologist, DeLuca. He is phenomenal at what he has been able to uncover, and with that, he is called Dr. Un for Untalk. He can be found at www.lesstalkmore.com. That's LESSTALK.
More love. Let's talk more love.
I'm sorry?
Let's talk more love.
Let's Talk More Love, .com. And he has a lot of information that he's going to really be able to share with you. As he stated, there is an opportunity here shortly for a free webinar that he's going to do for you to be able to start communicating and find solutions that you can use now, not later, not through 30,000 sessions, and you're not getting the tools and resources that you need, but things that you can start applying right now. These tactics are essential because it's going to affect your relationships and it's going to affect your health. And bottom line, your health is of utmost importance. And with that, you'll have a very fulfilling life if you have the essential communications down, because it affects you personally, professionally, and in every other way. Thank you, Phil, for being on the show today.
My honor. I'm flattered for having me. Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you again for watching this episode of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. We always strive to give you the tools and resources to make your life healthier. And if some of them are not directly applied to you, we do ask that you share that with your friends and family who not only can get that in the hands of someone that they feel that this is going to be important for, but maybe they too themselves will need the resources that we have available. Thank you again so much for watching. We here at the Liberty Beacon really do appreciate your time.